And indeed, we live in very interesting and complex times. And so, in order to deepen the conversation further, I would like to welcome to the stage for our opening panel Mr. Sturla Henriksen, Ms. Hege Skryseth, and Wolfgang Lehmacher. Please join me here on the panel.
Right over here.
Oh. Welcome to the stage. We're delighted to have this opening conversation with the three of you. I've tried to make the case for a world that is thoroughly connected, but Sturla, you rightly pointed out that protectionism, regionalism are among the new paradoxes that those of us who advocate for greater globalization have to confront. So let's talk about the shipping industry and its role in this. How do we advocate for keeping borders open, for promoting trade and exchange, for allowing these borders to remain liquid in a way that's going to benefit all of us in the industry? Please, I'd like all of you to comment.
One major
Please.
Go. Well, I think, there is an obvious point that, as you also made, Parag, and that is that trade and shipping is carrying 90% of all international trade. Trade between countries, regions of the world, has been sort of the major driver for global prosperity. And that has allowed different parts of the world to produce what they're best at and to exchange the goods on the international markets. And this has been the main driver for global economic growth. It's been the main driver for lifting hundreds of millions of people out of poverty and into the global middle class. And over the past few decades, we've seen that the multiple between trade and global economic growth has been approximately 2 or 3. Now it's parity.
Right.
And that is, I think, a concerning sign. Mm-hmm. And adding to that, we have, of course, the protectionist trends, the America First policies, and Brexit. And these are, I think, quite concerning because they're both indications of a fragmentation of trade, but also indication of fragmentation of global regulatory system, which is so important to this industry.
Hege, on this issue of there's fragmentation in regulations, there's regionalization that is happening within economies. Are you concerned about it? How does shipping overcome that?
I think what we basically see is that more and more trade is becoming digital. And as you well pointed out in your speech, is that digital is borderless. So I think even though many governments are trying to drive regulations and protectionism, etc., I think they're going to be challenged. And if you look at some of the initiatives that are happening from the EU, for instance, with the European single market, I think they will be challenged by the digital trend that we see when it comes to trade. And I think absolutely there's a good future within shipping in that area.
Mm-hmm. Wolfgang, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. There is a lot of discussion whether globalization is going backwards. Mm-hmm. I think we have a globalized world. We have it by internet, we have it by economic realities, and I don't think that people would just stop consuming because their governments decide to close the borders. That's why I think I'm always want to remind us that we should not be influenced too much by the US and the Brexit happenings. We could also be impressed by what happened in the Netherlands, what happened in France recently. We could have had a Europe which was falling apart. Mm-hmm. We were very close to it, but the population, and that's what you're saying, sees that maybe it's not the best idea to close the borders and that blocks fall apart. I also want to remind us that 22nd of February 2017, the Trade Facilitation Agreement came into force. More than 110 countries supported that agreement, which means most of the world is open for trade and for open borders. And I have been in Asia a week ago, spoken to several ministers. They all say, please come. We had the breakfast this morning. There were ministers from Africa. They say, please come. So it's not that we are suddenly turned from a globalized world in a multinationalistic world. We are still in a global world. Uber is a fantastic example, the whole enthusiasm. If we just look at the numbers, this is 55% of global population, this is 75% of known energy reserves, this is 25% of global population. Hope I have the numbers more or less right. This is 60 plus countries involved in a development which is, as you said, Parag, it's the third or fourth of its kind, with tremendous dollars behind, with institutions. This is not only a project, this is a framework of development. $240 billion are needed in the first phase. New Development Bank, AIIB, Silk Road Fund, and I could go on for a while.
Sturla's point, I think, is also that industry has to demonstrate its benefit at the community level as well in order to make the case for more open borders, for the positive benefits of trade and globalization, to resist protectionist temptations. So what can the industry do even further to demonstrate its benefit in countries that are welcoming investment, the job creation? Let's talk more about that.
Ladies,
it was a challenge.
It's a side panel. I have a tendency to think of it a bit differently, and the reason is basically that I think that we need to focus on the consumers because the consumer patterns are established and they're going to move on even though regulations and politics and everyone else is trying to constrain sort of the consumer patterns. So they're going to continue, I would say. And this is basically the point that I was pointing towards is the trade pattern is going to continue based on sort of the consumer demand and also, of course, businesses. Mm-hmm.
So the demand focus is very important. Other drivers of industry contribution?
No, I think that we have to be careful how we communicate globalization in the current environment. It became a bit the scapegoat of the global economy. And I believe it's more in action than in talk. And I think that the climate decarbonization angle is a good way to take a position. It was excluded from COP21. Being in line with the Paris deal is maybe not enough. Being ahead, self-committing, that might be a way showing the people. Another thing, port shipping was always a part of our social life as well. I know that a lot of cities are so proud of their ports, and so that means the shipping industry has a good reputation, and maybe the world of connectivity, where the port becomes an industrial zone becomes a part of a city will change with people like Hyperloop, and the definition connecting San Francisco and Los Angeles in 35 minutes, is it one city or two? There might be regions coming up connected. I think there are opportunities, so in climate and in connectivity.
Mm-hmm. Sturla, you identified 3 principal areas where the industry can invest and grow and be very sort of positive about when it comes to innovations: green maritime logistics, offshore energy provision, ocean-based resources exploration. How would you prioritize among the 3, or which of the 3 represents the greatest opportunity?
Well, I think sort of inherently the green logistics will be that, because that's a major part of that. That's the lion's share of the industry's current activities, and they will be of vital importance as we go forward. But then I still think that the growth potential is more in the renewable energy field and in exploring the ocean-based resources that we have. Food production was also mentioned by the minister here. I think it's extremely important, but also the subsea mining of rare earth minerals and metals, because geologists have told me that on the ocean, on the seabed, these resources are geologically easier accessible because they are more concentrated, and they are on shallower. They're shallower in the geological structure, and now we have offshore technology which makes it possible to extract them in a sustainable manner.
Hege, how would you invest across these opportunities?
I would say that within with the emerge of new energy sources, the development that we do see in solar power on destinations far from where we're at now need to be transported. We do see an emerge of new battery technology enabling storage to a further range. And of course, when it comes to wind farms, wind is predicted to be covering more than 20% of the total energy consumption in the world within only 13 years. And with offshore farms dropping prices to the extent that we have seen over the past years, I think that's going to be a very competitive source.
So now we've all touched already, and even in the minister's comments around food production and so forth, this is a very important crisis response mechanism. We're also dealing with immense climate volatility, and the coastal cities you mentioned that are going to be building new ports and special economic zones also happen to be in the places where sea levels are rising the fastest. The shipping industry is going to have to, as with everyone else, confront some pretty significant volatility. What role do you see in that crisis response in issues like food production and shipment and transportation, and even just the logistical capability for a coastal urban world?
Well, I think that, as I said in my introduction, I think that this industry is part of the solution. And I think that for the world to grow and prosper, we need to produce goods, we need to exchange goods, and shipping represents 90% of that. That means that this industry will be important. That it's also a fact that it's by far most energy efficient mode of transporting large quantities of goods. That does not mean that we shall not have to make major improvements. Right. These will be technical improvements, operational improvements, and I also think that it's a responsibility for this industry to contribute to a regulatory framework which is adapting to the needs and challenges ahead.
And Hege, you've already hinted at some of the many categories of emissions-reducing technologies that the industry is investing in. Talk a little about the geography of those investments. Where can we see that happen? Not only in the shipping supply chain and industry, but where around the world are the most promising markets for developing those new energy technologies?
It would absolutely be, when it comes to solar, it needs soil, of course. So it would be in Africa as one region. If you look at the offshore wind farms, I would say coastlines all over the world. And this is also actually geopolitical when it comes to the ability to provide for energy for countries that currently don't have the energy sources themselves. So we do see a significant build-up in this space, I would say.
And Wolfgang, the digitization, the fourth industrial revolution, an area of expertise of yours as well. It's not only making the shipping supply chain and ecosystem more efficient, but it can also have a significant role in the efficiencies that are going to help to reduce emissions. But talk to us about what are the biggest revolutions coming down the pipeline in the fourth industrial revolution, and what is their impact on the industry?
Before I do that, I don't want to forget the food industry. We will add 2 billion people in the next, say, 20, 25 years. They need to be fed. And exactly in that period, Ellen MacArthur and the World Economic Forum see that plastic will outweigh fish in the ocean. So I think there is a need to look in that area as well. And if we look into energy, we also need to think that energy consumption will significantly reduce. So in our industry, we will reduce significant, maybe half in it, bring it down to 1/5 the energy consumption. Just as some thoughts on the fourth industrial revolution. So fourth industrial revolution, the first brought us from wind power to steam power, the second brought us to oil power, the third to satellite navigation, and the fourth to connected systems. And we might see that oil-powered ships will be a thing of the past soon. And that is one effect of the fourth industrial revolution. And if that happened, and you say, okay, maybe fossil fuel cars in cities will be a thing of the past, can you imagine the disruption we are having in the industry, in the energy industry, and etc. When we talk about fourth industrial revolution, it's the convergence of technology. So we haven't spoken that much about artificial intelligence and what that can do. We speak about connectivity on the ground. We mentioned connectivity, the invisible connectivity. I think the biggest thing is we will move from a platform economy to a connected economy, to an invisible economy where we are not calling the shots anymore in the day-to-day business. It's electrification, autonomous will be part of our future. So two major disruptions, and which also will bring major benefits. Just on carbon numbers, I never know what the numbers are or whether they are right. But currently shipping is 2.5%. That's what I read. It could go up to 17. And with aviation, that's according to a report commissioned by the European Parliament, couldn't go up to 17, and with aviation to 40. Aviation has also cut a fantastic deal, the ICAO deal, where airlines start reporting emissions 1st of January 2020. I think also a very good example, and technology will definitely help in all those areas to make quantum leaps.
It's great to hear all of you focus so much on the technology, because then if the shipping industry is to benchmark itself against others, it can be very competitive in that race to bring emissions down. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this opening panel. It's been very stimulating. Please, everyone, join me in thanking Sturla, Hege, and Wolfgang for joining us. Thank you so much. Thank you.